That we're about 5 minutes early, but Cody, if you're ready, I know you're on, we can throw you on and you can start talking about the property values.
Perfect. So let me, hopefully you guys can see. I know Derek said he would lose his ugly mug, but hopefully you guys can see my ugly mug right now. Can you see it yet, Derek?
Yes, we see you.
Okay, fantastic, thanks. First, I'd like to thank Derek for the opportunity to present here today. It's been informative and you know, it's nice to have people of all walks and of all differing opinions and ideas to come together and hopefully gain something from everybody. So I appreciate that. And obviously Representative Binion was quite powerful. That was nice to nice of her to spend some time. So I'm going to try to pull up my screen here. Tell me if this works. Do I have it pulled up? Does anybody see that?
You're good.
Okay, perfect. So for those of you who don't know who I am, my name's Cody Hymas. I'm with Hymas and Associates Appraisers here in Cedar City. Have lived in the community for about 8 years, and prior to that, I spent a pretty good stint of time here also. So love Iron County, love Cedar City, and you know, it's fun to see the ebbs and flow of it, and the growth we've had lately has been nothing short of phenomenal. So Derek asked if I would talk on the residential market. One of the things about appraisers is we tend to live a little bit in the historical realm versus the forecasting realm. Hopefully that's something that's changing a little bit within the industry as appraisers are becoming more wanting to become more worried about the immediate future as much as the recent past. In doing so, it allows us to project and provide more credible assignment results, which is obviously the what all appraisers want, and frankly what all landlords want, what all buyers want, what all the industry wants, is to have a little bit better understanding of a market value. So I'm just going to start quickly. I wanted to, and Danny Stewart kind of hit on this, but I wanted to talk about the building permits. These building permits are just located in Cedar City proper, does not include any Iron County. Also, these building permits that I've taken only include new residential construction. And so they do not include any additions, any remodeling, anything of that nature are not included here. And what the building permits indicate from January 21 through November of 2022 is obviously we've had some pretty significant up and downs along the way. But since about January of 2022, we've kind of seen a steady decrease. In fact, most recently in October and November, we're seeing total building permits less than what we saw in January of 2021. So, you know, what does it tell us? You know, some of it you could argue is that the new construction's maybe tapering off a little bit, or developers and home builders are being a little more cautious about maybe some speculative nature of building. The other thing I really like to point out on this one is the amount of attached housing to detached housing in the permits. It's telling, you know, from a landlord's perspective. Oftentimes landlords have certain models they like to mirror or keep after because they know that model well. And so, you know, some want detached single family homes, some want attached homes, some want only within a PUD or an HOA that, you know, to help offset against some of that exterior associated cost. So, you know, one thing that we've certainly completed here in Iron County or in Cedar City proper for this matter, is a lot of attached housing. We can decide whether that's good or bad in the long term or even in the short term, and I'm not here to opine on that. I'm just here to give you the data suggests that we have constructed a lot more attached housing over the last 2 years than we have detached housing. Also, real quickly, if anybody wants to, ask a question along the way, interrupt me. I would love to talk about it right here and then. That way it's fresh on the mind. Moving forward, my analysis, the way I've put this together is I'm going to start with residential building lots, and then we'll move over to single family residential properties. And so residential building lots since January of 2021 through November of 2022. And to let everyone know the data, the sources is the data was obtained from the MLS. Now, it's not all inclusive. Being a non-disclosure state, we don't have every single transaction that has occurred, unfortunately, at our fingertips. But we do have a pretty vast amount of data on the MLS. And so these data points that we're showing come from the MLS. What we see from January of 2021 through November of 2022 on the average list price, and if you look over the adjoining grid, they mirror each other really similarly, is we started in January of 2021 right around $80,000 on a list price. And that list price, although it had a few downs, it ultimately increased all the way through really June. And then we had a sharp downturn from July and August, and it kind of ticked back up a couple of months. And most recently, a real sharp downturn. Corresponds directly, like I said, with the sold price of these building lots. So, building lot sales are frankly up just a couple of $1,000s on the average from January of 21 through November or to November of 22. During that time, we obviously hit some real high peaks, but most recently, it appears that the data is normalizing to almost where we started in January of 21. Moving forward on a price per square foot average sales price of a lot, we started around $5 a square foot in January of 2021. Kind of had a continuous upward trend, within those peaks and valleys through about May or June of 2022, where it reached about $9.25 a square foot. Dipped down in September, all the way through September, a little peak up in October, and now most recently in November of 22, we're about $6 a foot. So, the difference between a $5 and a $6 square foot is about 20%. If you just look at a straight line, maybe telling to some degree. But what I think is really compelling is the number of sales that have occurred during that time frame of residential building lots. We were, cruising right along, frankly, up in 2021. And 2022, we were still doing okay up until about March. And then March of 2022 is when Jerome Powell, the Fed chair, started to take initial bites out of the interest rate or increases in the interest rate. And as that has occurred, obviously the buying power decreases as interest rate goes up. And, seemingly the data says as those interest rate price hikes or interest rate hikes have taken place, our number of sales have decreased. I don't think it's extremely unforeseen. I think that's the purpose of the interest rate hikes from the Fed's position that they've vocalized. So That's certainly what they wanted is occurring. Onto the single family residential market, we have some similarities of the residential building lots, but some differences. So what we have in residential building lots starting in January through November was really all of 2021, the number of listings were really low. And a couple hundred active listings in Iron County is really nothing considering how many transactions and the volumes that we had. Again, correlating directly with the Fed's increase in interest, starting about March or April, we saw a significant increase in active number of listings. In fact, we doubled all the way through August. And now seasonality, we certainly will see some seasonality differences moving forward, but it looks like the number of listings are tapering off a little bit. So it's going to be real interesting to see what happens moving forward in 2023. One of the people I'm really looking forward to listening to is Trevor's prediction on value property, because it's going to be interesting to see what other people are saying. Days on market, kind of speaks for itself. It has decreased a little bit, but overall relatively stable around 85, 90 days, which is extremely low when you think, that includes from the time it was actually marketed to the time it goes under contract to the time it actually closes. So if you were to, estimate 30 to 45 days of closing, closer to about a month marketing period, which is just extremely, extremely low. The next one is the average list price. I don't think this is going to be shocking to anybody. We've seen an increase in list price from roughly, $290,000 to just over $410,000 in this 23-month span. It's a significant increase. One of the things that Danny Stewart was talking about was house affordability. I have actually a slide here coming up that we'll talk about in a little bit too, about the index of cost of housing and who can afford those. So when you increase from $300,000 to $400,000 in a matter of 23 months, it's you're talking a 33% increase, which is nowhere near what the wage increases have occurred in Iron County. As Danny mentioned, we've had some wage increase, but certainly not significant enough to keep up with our list prices, which, if we go to the next slide over, correlates directly with our sell prices. We started, and this makes sense, over the last couple of years. Generally, there's a list to sales price ratio of some sort, meaning, if something was listed at $100,000 and ends up selling for $95,000, just given the normal equilibrium within a market. Well, our market was and has been so heated, and there's such a fervor out there to get property that oftentimes we're seeing offers higher than what the listing price even was. So because of that, obviously our average sold price indicates or reflects almost directly with the average list price, which again is not anything that's wasn't expected. It's just nice to see on paper that it's actually mirroring that. Then we go to average sales price per square foot. As appraisers, if you deal with appraisers much, most appraisers hate the idea of somebody saying, "Oh, this house sold for $100 a square foot. Mine's got to be worth $100 a square foot." It's understandable that appraisers hate it, and we can all have a debate of why one aspect of the real estate market will use it, such as agents, and no fault of them or shade to them, and likewise no fault or shade to the appraisers. It's just a difference of the niche in the market that you play in. So the thing about a price per square foot that is nice is it does give you a general, just kind of, hey, this is kind of a general ballpark, maybe where we're looking. But what is difficult about it is price per square foot does not include certain specific criteria that play a major factor in value, namely location, setting, view, access, topography, shape, all, there's a lot of nuances there, quality and condition. So a lot of things are included in that price per square foot, and it can be useful. It's just not necessarily all telling. So with that caveat, I did do a price per square foot because it does shed some light on maybe something that's happening or occurring in the market right now. In January of 2021, we had an average sales price per square foot of around $150. And not surprisingly, that sales price per square foot did increase throughout all of 2021 on a straight line basis. But obviously, again, we had a few dips here and there, more or less for seasonality. An increase all the way to March. And then as we mentioned, when Jerome started increasing those interest rates, and over the course of the last 8 months, the Fed has increased the basis points by 425 or 4.25%. It's a big difference in buying power, and directly reflective of when the basis points were increased, we started seeing going up. We started seeing a stabilization, and then starting in September, we've seen a very stark downward trend. Is this a trend that will go into into the future, an extended period? I don't know. I wish I did. I have no idea. I'm not going to opine on that. But I'm just saying what we have from the actual data is over the course of the last 3 months, we've seen a decrease from about $225 a square foot all the way down to about $160 a square foot. So quite a drop. Again, that there could be a lot of reasons why that may or may not be 100% reflective of the market, but it does give us something to consider, if nothing else.
Yes.
Then we have the number of sales of residential, single-family residential properties. Sales have been fluctuating, and we've seen some very high months. We've seen a little bit lower months, and if you were to draw a straight line, we're probably somewhere right around there. Generally in our market, from starting in April, May, all the way through about September, we're going to have pretty good sale volume. That's kind of the peak season. The off-peak season, or the seasonality of it, the winter months tend to be a little bit harder to move properties. Not as many people are moving and looking to move during the holidays, and maybe during the course of a school year or some other reason that may keep them in place until the summer months. And so with that, we've seen a pretty steady volume of sales of roughly 90, maybe up to 100 on an average through the course of the last 23 months. Will the sell volume start to trickle down a little bit more? I mean, if you be a little bit critical, and if you start looking from July of 2021, or even March of 2022, and you start drawing that straight line, it does appear that there may be a downward trend in the number of sales. But again, the market will dictate that, and the fluidity in the market will let us know. And frankly, it's more going to be reliant upon, hopefully this next slide will tell us, but the buying power. So what I've completed here is a little just a difference of the mortgage rate and the buying power that you have within that mortgage rate. When rates were low, it was obviously you're able to pay more for a property because your mortgage rate is going to stay, or your mortgage is going to stay lower than if you have a higher rate where a lot of your mortgage payment simply just goes to the interest. So in this, what I completed was I just said, if you purchased a house at $350,000 as an investor, I looked at this as an investor, considering the purpose of this assignment, or the purpose of this thing that Derek has put together. And I said, 20% minimum, maybe up to 30%, whatever you want to do as an investor. That puts you at $280,000 for your mortgage if you did a 30-year term. And that was fairly common, around a 4.5% interest. As an investor, you could obtain relatively easy, even a year ago. And so, you're looking at $1,350 to $1,400 a month. And that gives you a lot of freedom and flexibility to make financial sense as a landlord, to cover your expenses, to put some in reserves, to make sure that you have enough to, if the market shifts a little bit, there may be a little bit of room there to lower rents and keep tenants and not have to worry about it so much. Well, over the last, 6, 7, 8 months, when the Fed have increased the rates so much, now you're looking at 6.5%, 7% of interest, or as a mortgage rate, and you've increased to roughly 1770 to 1862. A difference of $530 if you look at the extreme low of 4 and the high of 7. And that, frankly, more than likely will make most investments financially unfeasible, from just a straight landlord perspective. Now, obviously, there's other ways to get around it, and there's certainly other things that don't play a factor if you're wanting to be an investor and you have different models. I'm not saying this takes all the investors out of the market. I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is this does take a large bite out of the investor market, because it no longer is, you no longer are making money and there's no return. And if you're running your business as your rentals as a business, you generally want to return. And then, if that's not capable of occurring right now, you're going to take yourself out of the game for that. The next step is what I was talking about with the affordability index, and Danny Stewart kind of talked about this, but the affordability index is a measure of an average person's ability to purchase a particular item, such as a house. And so it takes into account the cost of living. And sorry. So what I've went and done on this slide was I said, okay, Iron County as of June 6th and December 5th, with a median home price of $231,300. That median home price was based off the U.S. Census Bureau. But anybody who lives here, I don't know of many $231,000 homes being sold lately. So I said, let's kick it up to 300, and just that way we have 3 different sets here of data that we can kind of look at and find out about the affordability. This one I started to look at more of as a homeowner as opposed to a landlord, just so and I know this is contrary to some of the other statements, that not contrary, just a different point of view is what I should say than other statements been said today. But from a landlord perspective, when the affordability index is low, it's positive to a landlord because it means you have more tenants. And so in this situation, if you look at the median price point of a $231,300 home or $300,000 home, and you have a mortgage of you just deduct that 222.48 for those first two and 288 for the second. The mortgage rate was at 5% in June of June 6th of 2022. It has creeped up to about 6% of December 5th of 2022. It's now, some people say it's 7, and shop around, maybe you can get a little bit less, but for the sake of this argument, I did a 5.09 and 6 on the other two. That puts your mortgage payment at $1,200 on the low end, all the way up to $1,700 on the high end. If you gave a 20%, 27% of income to the affordability limit, that in order to qualify, you would have to be making a minimum of, as of June 6th, $53,500, and December, $59,168. And if you can see the difference of $70,000 does, it increases you all the way to $76,800 more or less. Now, based off of the census, our median income is $52,000 in Iron County. So as of June 6th of 2022, 97% affordability index, still not great. But you would like to see, for a long time in Iron County, we're sitting about 1.2, which 120%, which was really good. 97% is just shy of average, but you see how quickly we have fallen in just 6 months, all the way down to 88%. And if you take a little bit more of a realistic view of a price point of 300,000, we're all the way down to 68% affordability, which is rough. It's taken a lot of buyers out of the market just because the income does not match the price point of the homes. I hope that helps. I'm going to open it up to questions. If anybody would like to contact me, you can take my email, my phone number, and feel free to contact me at any point. But until then, if we have a few more minutes for questions, and I would love to, see if we can bounce some things off of each other.
You either thoroughly confused them, they don't know how to come out of it, Cody, or it was clear.
I'm going to go with the prior as opposed to the latter.
Well, my name's John. I'm not confused, but I will say I've kind of had the wind taken out of my sails a little bit. I was hoping to acquire more rental properties, and based on your current forecast, do you actually see any kind of buyer's market coming into play again, where my ROI, my return on my investment, is going to be feasible once again?
Acting as an investor, not an appraiser here, John, because I don't have that answer as an appraiser. I'll just be 100% honest. I wish I did. As an investor, I believe that Jerome Powell, I try to follow him closely. 8 months ago or so, he was very bearish on real estate, and he flat said, I'm going to make the real estate market correct. I mean, which for a Fed chair, they are so very concerned, and they're really, really articulate. They know their choice of words very well. For him to be so just poignant on that, I don't foresee the rates coming down. With that being said, it makes it hard as an investor, if you're obtaining a loan, to acquire a rental rate that will offset that high interest rate. I think the easiest answer from me is it may be a little bit of a wait and hold, just kind of see what happens in the spring. If home prices start to decrease a little bit, which would offset some of that interest rate, there may be some buying potential or opportunities ahead of us. But if the home builders and others decide to hold their prices, then the rental rates that we currently receive in Iron County probably will not justify being able to buy new properties.
Yeah, that's what I would agree with also based on everything I've heard today. But thank you for your time. Definitely appreciate you being here today and contributing to Derek's event. It was informative.
I appreciate you saying that. Thank you, John.
Any other questions? Okay. With that, we
Actually,
can,
I actually do, Derek, to you now. Because I don't follow the rental market rates as closely. What do you see in the market rental rates moving forward?
I don't know. The one segment where I'm seeing some stabilization, which I've been waiting for a couple of years, is like the 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath townhomes that we've seen built here in such a high level. That those right now have stabilized, and in some ways the rates have dropped in some of them, because you've seen so many come on the market all at once. And so, but what I don't know, and I'm with you, I'm kind of waiting for the spring, is how much of that is we've had a whole lot come on at a slow time of the year, as opposed to, you know, that's kind of a bubble that's looking to burst. So that's right. I'm kind of in a wait and see. I'm intrigued watching it and trying to counter that and know how to adjust. It's part of, you know, like I've been preparing almost 2 years for the eventual slowdown that I kept waiting for it to happen, to make sure that, you know, you guys were prepared for that and we can keep tenants in. Most of you guys know my policy is, for the most part, we follow the rental rates. I'm not one that I'm like, hey, this person got 18, so I'm going to try for $2,000. And so by following those, we've still been able to increase on renewals, and we've been able to keep people, keep your tenants in. And most of them, they may be like, I'd really like to move, but I know I can't afford it, right? So with that, like, I feel good that we're going to be able to weather whatever happens and be able to adjust. But honestly, I'm still with you, Cody. I'm waiting until the spring to see kind of what happens as the normal market uptick starts happening. So, but with that, like, one adjustment we've always had, and I'll end with this so we can go into Smarty, is, so we do our renewals about 2 months in advance. So that gives us, if they aren't renewing for whatever reason, 2 months to be able to fill your property. And we're usually able to get that filled within the 2 months. Occasionally we have one that we can't explain, that we're like, I filled the same unit, like, or a similar unit in 2 days, and this one took a little longer. You know, there's always just those. But by doing that and having that policy in place, we have time to help you guys adjust to the market, so we know we can adjust, instead of being like, oh, they just gave their 30-day notice, we have 30 days to fill it. How do we price that so to minimize your downtime? That extra month has been a lifesaver, so we can make the necessary adjustments. And if you're needing to push rents a little higher, and you want to, we have time to do that and potentially get that, or they, you know, or we price it to where it can be filled really quickly and all that. So we've been able to do that. The rental rates, like 1-bedrooms, 2-bedroom studios, are still going well. The 4 bedrooms have stabilized a little bit more, but a lot of that has to do with the D.R. Horton project on the north end of town, Cody. That all of those are 4 bedrooms, and a lot of those have been bought as investments. So we typically see a shortage of 4 bedrooms. Now we have a surplus that'll just take a little bit longer for that market to go through. But I think as that project is finished up, you'll see that restabilize again. So that answer your question, Cody? And anyone else?
Yeah, no, that did. I appreciate it.
Okay, so with that,